It's casual, not formal. It's hosted by Rory Pendlin. Oh, and Renee in tow. It's time to start the show. 1, 2, 3, go!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of It's Casual. We have a very special show for you tonight. But first, let me bring up my director and co-host, Miss Renee Jaworski.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
That was kind of evil the way you did that.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I don't know why I did the Mr. Burns. I just channeled my inner Russian. I think it just came out. It's like the alien in Anyway,
but you're
sorry.
Ukrainian.
I'm Ukrainian, but I did have a great grandfather who was Russian. So.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
They sneak in there. The Russians always find a way to invade the Ukrainians. No matter what century we go to, they find a way. Oh, gosh.
Well, speaking of the other side of the water, the bay, the guest that we have coming on in just a few minutes, he moved over to the UK, over in Europe, and has lived there for, I guess, 25 years now. But before that, he was part of a famous comedy team here in America back when comedy was exploding back in the 80s. And as a result, he got some TV work, and they were in Killer Klowns from Outer Space. Now, we did Killer Klowns from Outer Space on the Big Monster Rafing Room.
Oh, my gosh.
And I invited him to come to that, and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm doing something." And I sent him the link to the show, and he watched it, and he was like, "This is really interesting. Thank you guys for doing this." And that started me talking to him about, "Hey, well, we got another show. Why don't you come on It's Casual? That might be a better fit." Mm-hmm. And you could tell us about, your amazing journey, through the world of comedy, through television and motion pictures, and then, making the big leap across the bay, or across the ocean to the UK and what life is like there. So without further delay, let's go ahead and bring up Michael Siegel. There he is.
Hey, everybody.
And I hope Renee got the Tevye pictures that I sent her, because you make a great looking Tevye.
I'm Jewish. It's not hard.
So, and you were playing an Italian in Killer Klowns from Outer Space, right? Terenzi?
Yeah, Terenzi brother. Yeah,
the Terenzi brothers.
That's right. I go in between the two. Very easily. Depends. Beard, Jewish, no beard, Italian.
There you go. So I can see you in the future playing Mafia Dons in UK productions.
Yeah, maybe.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
You were part of Licassi and Siegel.
Yeah.
And at that time when comedy was exploding, they started doing the cable shows, the Showtime, the HBO. There were comedy clubs sprouting up all over the place. There weren't many comedy teams, actually. You had Mac and Jamie, you had you guys.
There was Roger and Roger, the Funny Boys. There was us.
In the 60s, you had men and women.
There was a few before at the Comedy Store, but
sorry, there's a little bit of delay, I think.
Yeah. There were a few before us at the Comedy Store that I probably really never met or worked with, but those were the main guys when I was there back from like 85 to 95. The Funny Boys, Roger and Roger, and who was the other one you mentioned?
Mac and Jamie.
Oh, Mac and Jamie, yeah, Mac and Jamie, and they had their own TV show as well, Mac and Jamie.
Oh, I didn't know that. I know that they were in $1 Million Mystery. You guys ended up with the better deal with Killer Klowns from Outer Space. which is
Oh,
a
well,
cult classic.
I never saw that movie, but they had a great TV show that was quite funny on. It was on 5 nights a week at 11 o'clock on. I want to say Channel 5 in LA, but I don't remember.
Oh wow!
It could be Channel 11. It could have been Fox. I don't know. I don't remember.
So where did the journey to comedy begin? I mean, did you know Pete Licassi before you got into comedy, or did you meet at comedy clubs and decide, hey, let's do a duo act? I mean, how did that begin?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I first moved to LA back in 1982, my wife and I, my first wife and I have a lot of wives. My first wife and I went to the Comedy Store in Westwood when it was still open. And I remember the comics that were on that night. It was Taylor Negron and Robert Townsend. Those are the main two that I remember. And I was in hysterics. And I remember walking out of there thinking, because I was trained as an actor. I'd never done any stand-up, and I never really had any aspirations to do comedy at all. I was a class clown, and I had a sense of humor, but doing stand-up for me just seemed like an incredibly hard thing to do. And you really had to expose yourself, and I don't think at that time I was ready to do that. So I walked out of there and I said to Sarah, I said, I don't think I could ever do anything like that. Jump cut 3 years later, and Peter and I are on that stage, same stage. It was very weird. But how we met, we met. We both auditioned for a show at a theater on Crenshaw Boulevard in LA. And we kept going to rehearsals. It was like they called it Third City Live. And it was going to be this live sketch show, kind of like Saturday Night Live, Second City Television type of thing. And we kept going for rehearsals, and each rehearsal somebody else would drop out. Until one day we showed up, and we were the only two that showed up. And the door was locked. And we're going, what's going on? We didn't have any idea what was happening. So we called the theater and said, what's going on? And they said, oh, that show's been canceled. But they told everyone else, but they didn't tell us.
Right.
Yeah, so there was a Burger King. I remember this so clearly. There was a Burger King across the street. And, neither one of us wanted to let it go because, we'd gotten a job in LA. And I'd only been out there maybe 3 months, 4 months. And Pete was from Arcadia, so, Pasadena area. So, he'd lived there all his life. And he always wanted to be a stand-up, by the way.
Right.
But it wasn't something I wanted to do. So we sat at the Burger King and tried to figure out what we could do. And we decided we were going to start an improv group. And so we called the theater. The guy at the theater said, hey, can we use your theater to audition people for the improv group? And Pete knew a few people, and he brought them in. And we put this improv group together called Special Delivery. And, we did pretty well. We were together for about a year or so. And we ended up working at the Ice House. They had a little side room. And we were doing our comedy, our improv thing, like I think once a month there. And then the owner of the Ice House, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, he liked us so much, he put us on as the opening act in the main room, which is very rare that he ever put any kind of improv group on. So we did a week doing that. After about a year, I had an idea in my head for a long time about something of just the two people doing something. And I suggested to Pete that we get together. And I gave him the idea, and we put something together for the improv group to show them. And when we did it for them, they said, yeah, put it in the show. And so we did it at the Ice House for the very first time in that side room. Big, there was about 100 people in the audience because we were starting to get a bit of a following.
Yeah.
And we did it. And it just was one of those moments, where it was rolling laughter through the whole routine. And we kind of came off stage and went, well, maybe it's time to just do our own thing. And that's how it started.
Now, and I've read that you have said that you had your own style of writing physical comedy. You guys did physical comedy.
Yeah, that's right.
And you had your own style of writing physical comedy for you and Pete.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way we, yeah, the way we did things. We never sat down. Well, we did. I mean, we worked. You know, once we decided to go off as a team, we had this one routine, which was the Nutcracker Suite ballet. We called it Greaser Ballet. We had that, and then we needed, you know, another 3 minutes to even have a chance to go to the Comedy Store, and it took us another, I don't know, another year and a half before we actually felt comfortable enough to go to the Comedy Store and do our open mic night. We came up with another idea of this slapping routine as these professional musicians. And, you know, when we first started doing it, we were actually talking during it, which was weird. And so we were working out at places like Carlos and Charlie's, the Laugh Factory, and, you know, we would go and just do our stuff and keep working. We were working on other material that wasn't working so well, but, you know, we put enough stuff together to do a couple of shows for friends and family and stuff like that. And we just kept working, and we would get together from 10 to 5, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, and think of ideas and try any kind of physical things that we could do. Now, Pete was an incredible banjo player. Absolutely brilliant banjo player. And he had this idea, because I was a pretty crappy guitar player. And he said, can you play guitar? And I said, well, not really. He said, yeah, I know. Great. Let's do this routine. And that was our dueling banjos thing. And that gave us our 15 minutes. But when we got our 6 minutes together, we went to the Comedy Store. Mm-hmm. And the first Monday night we went there, they said they were going to put us on around 10, 11 o'clock, which was perfect because it would have been full, it would have been great. But then all these comics started coming in, all these well-known comics, and doing spots. And before you knew it, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. There were 3 people left in the audience. Jeez. And so the doorman came up to us and said, look, you guys want to do it tonight, or do you want to come back next week? And I'll make sure I'll give you a good spot. Oh, we said next week. Please, we'll come back next week. Yeah, that's great. So we came back the next week and we did it, and it went really well. And he said, I want you guys to meet Mitzi, you know, do it for Mitzi next week. And we did it for Mitzi next week, and we bombed. We bombed. It was absolutely awful. We got one person laughing in the audience through the whole routine. And we come off stage, and it was this weird laugh anyway. And we come off stage, and we were like so down, you know, we were just so depressed about it. And Mitzi came up to us and she went, yeah, guys, that was great. I loved it. And we said, we bombed. She said, no, didn't you hear me laughing? She was the only one who was laughing.
It was her.
It was her. And that was, thank God for that. And she said, and this was bad, because this was bad for me on my part. She said, listen, can you guys do Thursday night in the main room, 20-minute spot? And I, without even thinking, went, yeah, sure. And Pete looked at me, did a double take, and went,
now, what? Did you have 15 at this point, or did you only have 6?
We only had 6.
Oh, man.
Only had 6 that month.
Now, for our audience who doesn't know, Mitzi Shore was the owner of the club.
That's right.
And Pauly Shore's mom. A lot of people know her, but most comics know her as being the owner of the Laugh Factory.
The Comedy Store.
Comedy Store. I'm sorry, the Comedy Store.
The Comedy Store. Mitzi was a champion of our comedy. We were so different and unique compared to what anybody else was doing at that time. And so we went in the main room that night, and we didn't do very well. And basically, she said, I think I lost you. I can't see you anymore. Are you still there? Oh, there
I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes Renee will take me off to give the guest a spot.
So, yes, basically what happened was she just said, look, I want you guys to work out, you know, find your good 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll start putting you in the main room. So she had us working out in the original room and in the Westwood Comedy Club. And eventually it grew to a point where, you know, we were doing 15, 20 minutes, but we had talking in there and things. And finally, we did our kind of little showcase for her to do Vegas, because she had the Comedy Store at the Dunes Hotel in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And we did it at the Comedy Store. And she said, great, I'll see you in Vegas. So we went to Vegas and we did a rehearsal in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And after the rehearsal, she just came up to us. Now, Argus Hamilton was there as well. And I think Argus kind of mentioned this to her. I'm not positive, but I have this memory of Argus. He was still at the Comedy Store, and he's one of the greatest comics that I think has ever been there. The guy he writes material like that. He's so sharp, and he has a great eye and a great ear. I think he actually said something to Mitzi, and then she came up to us and said, look, do it again, and this time don't talk. And those two words literally changed our lives. Literally, that woman changed everything at that moment. So we did the routine. We didn't talk. We had a couple of little button things that we said at the end of a routine or something, and a couple of little jokes at the beginning of the ballet. But yeah, she said, don't talk. And it was great because we then started fashioning everything we did by just doing all physical comedy. We just, every routine we thought of after that was without dialogue. It was all, I mean, so we were doing like a good half hour of material without saying a word. And then we had about 15 minutes when we would go down to La Jolla and we were headlining down there. We were doing a 45, 50-minute act. We would add, you know, we would do more talking with the audience because they enjoyed it down there. But yeah, thanks to her. And then, you know, it just escalated from there because she was putting us in Vegas about 20 weeks out of 15, 20 weeks out of a year.
Wow.
And, you know, she really kept us busy there in La Jolla and main room in the Comedy Store for a long time. And then some guy saw us in Vegas who booked all over the world.
Wow. We have a short clip here we're going to run. It's kind of a montage of some of your physical things that you did on stage. Let's go ahead and run that real quick if Renee has that ready. Hollywood.
Entertain you. They work all over. They work the Dunes Hotel in Vegas a lot. They've been on tour with Shaka Khan, and they are something to see. Give a big round of applause to Licassi and Siegel.
That was Martha Warfield, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a lag there, unfortunately.
Yeah. But for physical comedy, that's not always the best thing.
That's not the best. So I apologize for that. But but yeah, do you have the other clip, Renee? The slapping?
Yep, just give me like a second to cue it up.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. This was not your first trip over to across the ocean there to England. You were actually on a magic show over there at Licassi and Siegel doing the slapping.
That's right.
What is the official title for that bit?
The ham boners. Ham
boners.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it was a really, I mean, we did some weird stuff. We really did. But, you know, it was so unique that people kind of liked it because they didn't really expect it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that and the ballet were the two things that really carried us through. Everybody wanted to see it. So it really enabled us to do TV shows everywhere. I mean, we worked in so many different foreign countries and did about 30, 40 TV shows worldwide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, we did shows in Italy and France and England and a lot in Germany. The Germans really enjoyed our stuff. I mean, we did this big circus in Germany for a year.
Well, and again, it's all physical, so there's no language barrier.
Funnily enough, depending on where you are, you do have to adjust things a little bit to make them work. You know, Some of the physical stuff, yeah, there were some things that worked. I'll give you an example. In the slapping routine, in the ham boning, at the beginning, we used these underarm deodorants where we pull them out of our violin cases and we have these roll-ons that we did, and then put them back because we weren't wearing shirts, obviously.
Right.
And in Germany, that didn't work. So we actually switched to the spray because it was a much better visual. So it's little things like that actually made quite a big difference when it came to doing certain routines.
I guess they didn't know what roll-ons were there.
Well, no, I think they did, but I think maybe it had a better funny look to it. That just going like this just didn't seem to connect with them as much. I don't know. We weren't sure. We did a sound effects routine as well, where we had a flushing toilet. I do all these different sound effects that we had on tape, and it looks like I'm doing them.
Right.
Like a flushing toilet and a ringing phone. Well, both of those had to be changed because the toilets flush differently in Germany than they do here, or than they do in the States. And the phone, we had to get a kind of a German phone ring. And we added this kind of little saying, something in German that said, I think you've got the wrong number or something like that, which was quite funny. So it was those kind of things that we did have to change. Because it made a difference. But yeah, in general, most of the places we went, we didn't have to change anything, but there were places.
And the ambulances sound different.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you could, Renee, if you could just pull that in past the introduction so that we could see them ham boning. Is that a word? Ham boning?
Well, I haven't seen this in years.
There they are. Okay, this one's working good. Good.
Yeah, it is. I forgot that we came out of the orchestra. See, here we used to roll on.
They're doing the roll-ons. Yeah. And again, everything carefully choreographed.
Yeah, lots of rehearsal. The other thing is, Mitzi was very nice about letting us use the Comedy Store main room to rehearse during the days.
Oh,
so
cool.
we spent a lot of time there.
Great stuff. And I remember that bit when you came through Florida.
Yeah.
So yeah, the greased hair, everything was carefully planned to get the ultimate out of the audience, to get the laugh out of the audience.
It's really funny because Pete and I had a very similar sense of humor, and we just kind of built on each other of how we could make things work. And that routine had a lot of talking in it first. We were like, kind of explaining each movement. How music has different movement, classical music will have movement in it, but each movement. And we were trying to do that and saying really absurd stuff, and it just didn't work. And finally we just said, well, why do we need to say anything? So that whole routine was completely silent when we did it for Mitzi.
If you got to explain the joke.
Yeah, you don't have to. We didn't have to. Yeah.
Now, Pete left us in 2020.
Yes, he did.
I'm not going to elaborate on that. If you want to, that's up to you.
Yeah, let's go back. I mean, we'll talk about that closer to the end, maybe, as we
Okay.
move forward. Because I mean, Pete and I, we through all the performing and traveling and everything else, we were very fortunate because we had a great agent. Our agent became a casting director and actually cast Friends, the original Friends. Wow. She was our agent. And she was very good at what she did. And, now I think she's a director and she lives in Canada. Her name is Ellie Canner. And she's incredibly talented, gifted woman. She got us auditions for things. So we were, because we looked similar, we were cast quite often together as brothers, So we did Killer Klowns from Outer Space as the Terenzi brothers. We were on Santa Barbara. We had these recurring roles in Santa Barbara as these two kind of gangster brothers called Pino and Guido.
Pino DeFranco.
Yeah, that's it. DeFranco brothers. And that was fun because, the scenes, all the scenes that we did had kind of humor in them. There was this humor that we did, and then we were both cast. And this particular moment for us, for 30 something, they were auditioning. They wanted two guys to be these radon busters, in kind of a humorous scene for 30 something. So we got the script. I mean, the day we went in for the audition, and we made some changes in it, just little changes, nothing major. And we went in and did it for like Ed Zwick, because he was, the producer at the time of 30 something. And there was like 6 people sitting on a couch. And we went in there, and it was one of those moments for us, because I think we just made it work where we were doing things, saying things together. And, just all the timing of it just worked. And we got a standing ovation.
Wow. At the audition.
Yeah, in the audition. And they said, do it again, do it again, do it again.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, we did it again. We walked out. We knew we got the part. We went in, we filmed it. And then sadly, they ended up having to cut it because it wasn't really part of the main storyline. It was kind of a bit of a tangent in their storyline. And they were running, and that episode was running too long. But they were so kind. They said, look, we'd like to still give you guys parts in other episodes. You won't be together, but we'll give you a part in one thing, give you a part in something else. So that was very nice of them to do that.
Yeah. Because it says here you played Stan on 30 something.
Yeah. He was a delivery guy.
Stan the delivery guy.
Yeah, in the big wedding episode, I was delivering chairs and stuff for the big wedding. Yeah, it was a nice, fun day on set. Yeah.
There you go.
And then we have these stories. Before we went to the circus, we did the circus for a year. This German circus for a year, where we were the comedy act, and we did quite a few of our routines there. We did our upside down guys. We did dueling banjos, we did the slapping, we did the ballet, we did our sound effects. We did quite a few things that we were peppered in throughout the circus. And that's where I met my second wife. There were 6 English dancers in the show, and we met and fell in love and somehow got pregnant. I don't know how that happened. We decided in the run of that show in that 1 year to get married. And during we had a 3-day break, and we came back to England and got married. Her parents threw a wedding for us, and then we went back. She came back for a bit, and then she was too pregnant to dance anymore, so she came back to here. I went back to the States, and then that whole thing of what I told you already about getting into coming here and doing that the show, Frank Skinner show, and then I got them to the States, my family to the States, and then Pete and I got this job. Merv Griffin had seen our tape, and he hired us to do a year at the Resorts International in Atlantic City.
Ooh, that's marvelous. Ooh.
And one day, he, out of the blue, about 3 weeks before we were supposed to do it, he calls Pete on the phone. He says, "Listen, I'm doing a siring a show at this place called Bohemian Grove. Now, Bohemian Grove was like a millionaires club out in the woods.
Yeah.
Santa Rosa. Had you heard of this before, Bohemian Grove?
I think, yeah, somebody had told me another story about this place. Yes.
Crazy place. Absolutely nuts. I mean, it was all, they have all these camps there, and there's the musicians camp, the actors camp, the comedians camp, the politicians camp, and and each camp had their own chef, and you had their own stage and their everything. It was, and you'd see politicians walking around in towels and talking to comedians, and it was very surreal. And we did this show, and Roger Moore was there. He was on the plane with us. Murr put us on his plane and took us up with Roger Moore, and
oh wow,
it was really exciting, fun
so
stuff.
you're jetting around the world with James Bond. How nice!
Yeah, it was interesting. Again, surreal moments that we had. I think Tom Dreesen was actually on the flight with us as well, and
another great comic.
Yeah, very funny. And we had we had those moments in our career that you look back and go, really, did that happen? Did that really happen?
Did we really do that?
And we surprised ourselves quite often as to the things we were doing. I mean, we were fortunate enough to do, we never did, the Tonight Show or Letterman or anything, because I don't think we were right for them. I mean,
yeah.
they saw our stuff, but they just weren't right. But we did Arsenio,
yeah,
which went over quite well. And we did a show called Skew Me with Tim Conway. And growing up, one of my comic idols, was Jonathan Winters.
Oh God.
Yeah, and he
here. Yeah,
he was on that show, and he came into our dressing room and kind of improv for 15 minutes in our dressing room with us. And I swear to God, he walked out.
Man,
Pete and I looked at each other and went, "What just happened? What was he saying?" Because he was just so off in so many weird tangents. We didn't know. We couldn't keep up with him. He was such a brilliant man. But again, to be able to work with some of your idols, was quite thrilling. And so it went quite well. And as time went on, Pete and I were together, nearly 15 years. And we had our ups and downs. It was tough. It was like a marriage, and things were getting, we were getting tired of each other, and we were always in each other's back pocket and traveling everywhere together. And
well, and again, I mean, you don't see a lot of comedy duos or troops because when you're on the road. I mean, I know what kind of people you had to deal with on the road. You had to split your money, and and again, you're with the same person all the time, and you're like, oh man. So yeah, it must have been difficult. It must have been rough at times.
It was at times, but the whole split the money thing wasn't that major of a deal for us for some reason.
Well,
I think when we did the smaller comedy clubs, we thought, well, why are we doing this? Because
that's true. You were in Vegas, and
yeah, I mean, we were doing
billionaires clubs.
Yeah, we were doing bigger things. Well, we didn't get paid for that. We did it as a favor to Merv, but I mean, he took care of us when we did his resorts for a year. So, we had some very good years, when it came to that. So we never really, we were careful not to do anything that we felt, wasn't worth doing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so, but we always tried to keep busy. If we weren't doing some little TV bit or, a film or working at the Comedy Store, La Jolla, somewhere, Vegas, whatever it was.
Right.
We would do whatever came our way if we thought it was worth it to do. But
okay.
we had so downtime as well.
After 15 years.
Yeah.
You have a second wife now.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And
a family growing.
Yeah, we had, by this time I had a daughter from my first marriage, and my son from my present marriage.
Okay.
And basically, what happened was Pete and I we took some breaks. We had some downtime, and I actually went back and started working at a Jewish deli again, because I had all my background training from the time I was about 15. I worked in Jewish delis, so I was a proper deli man as well. So I always had something to fall back on. So I started working juniors.
Man of many talents.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it a talent, more of a skill. Yeah. But yeah, we had our ups and downs. We had a lot of arguments. We had a lot of disagreements. But what marriage doesn't. Pete and I, we didn't always agree on everything. But for a comedy team, and usually they say comedy team's life is like a 10-year life cycle or something. We lasted almost 15, which was not bad. And it just got to a point where we just had enough of each other, and we decided we needed a break. So we broke up in 1997, I think. The last thing we did was in Japan, and it wasn't even our comedy act. Okay. We were hired to do this thing for Toshiba, where we played these kind of Carnival Barker type characters for this big convention that they had to put this thing together for. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time, but it was the last thing we did together. And when we got home, we kind of went our separate ways for a while and gave just kept some distance. And Pete tried to do stand up on his own, and I don't think it went very well for him. A friend of mine said he went and saw it, and it was a bit of a struggle for him. Yeah, and I think for Pete, being always wanting to be a stand-up, even on his own, before he met me, before we met and got together, I think that was kind of heartbreaking for him. And I think that I don't know if that was a catalyst or not, or the fact that right around that time as well, I ended up moving to the UK.
Because 98, you moved to the UK.
So. Yeah, I didn't have anything going on in the States. My wife and I, at that time, were not getting along, and she moved back here without me and with our son. And I stayed in the States, tried to make a go of it, but really couldn't. Then I came over here to see my son for Christmas, and he wanted me to stay, and I couldn't. And then my wife and I talked things out, and we sort of started talking on the phone a bit. And it got to a point where we said, well, maybe we should get back together, but let's try it over here in the UK. So I came over here, and I didn't do any performing at all for a long time.
Yeah.
I was a chef, a salesman. I just kind of did various things to, make a living, have a family, and we had another kid. And then eventually, as marriages do sometimes, we ended up splitting up. And that's when I decided I wanted to start acting again. So I started figuring out a way to establish myself here.
Yeah.
And this was back in, 2009. I had done some amateur theater before that.
Yeah, the credits on IMDb started around 2010. Yeah. So it's probably 2009 when you started actually filming and working again.
Yeah, probably. It was around there. Well, I've been doing, it was around there. And I started doing some commercials and things. I got an agent that wasn't very good. And then I found a better agent. And that better agent started getting me a lot of auditions. And I started doing lots of commercials. And I was very fortunate to get quite a few commercials, but I was still doing my day job. And so I just, at about 5.5 years ago, I made a decision that I was going to Brexit happened, Brexit over here,
right.
So we're no longer part of the EU. The economy went to shoot. I don't know if I can curse on here. So.
Shite. Yes, you can. Oh, this is not for kids, so you can.
Okay, good. The economy went to shit. And our company was struggling, and they started micromanaging us. And I'd always had freedom, to do what I needed to do. And once that happened, I just decided it was maybe time to make a decision to make a change. So I decided to sell my house and quit my job and live off the equity of the house and become a full-time actor. And, luckily, it's been okay so far.
Yeah, you've got a lot of credits. That was a good move for you to go back to the UK because you've got a lot of credits on IMDb for the last 10 years, 15 years.
Well, my agent said a very good thing. I asked her straight out because I'd asked my first agent about this, and she said, no. I said, you think I should grow a beard? And my first agent said, no. My second agent went, who I'm still with almost 10 years later. I said, you think I should grow a beard? And she went, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
and the work started coming. And I get, called in for a lot of Jewish parts and stuff like that. I'm like the go-to Jew here. I get a lot of work doing Jewish uncles, Jewish grandfathers, Orthodox Jew rabbis, those kind of things,
And Tevye.
Well, Tevye, that was an amateur production that I did. I did that a couple of amateur productions while I was here before I really started doing. I was still doing some other stuff, but my whole thing is I really wanted to do more theater anyway, and that's the other reason why I wanted to quit my job, because I really love theater. So I was able, when I quit my job, I was able to do about 3 or 4 theater productions until the pandemic hit, and then I haven't done any theater since. Just the pandemic sort of slowed everything down for me. I was on
that wiped out the theater there.
It did for a good year, 2 years, yeah. And
now you're actually in London, or
no? I live up near Leeds, which is in the middle of the country.
Okay.
Yeah, West Yorkshire.
Okay.
So for me, it was a good move, and things have been going fairly steady for the most part. I seem to be able to go from job to job. I'm not really without for very long, which is good. And my agent's getting me plenty of auditions still. So, I keep working. And for me at my age, I'm quite happy with that kind of scenario. And, in
my downtime, kids.
Well, in my downtime, I spent plenty of time with my kids. They're all grown up now. My youngest is 22, almost 23. And
so fast.
What's that?
They grow up so fast.
No kidding. They really do. And they're great kids, and they're very supportive. And they're my best friends. I spend a lot of time with them, so it's good. But I keep fairly busy, and I stay creative. I'm teaching myself how to play the piano, how to play the guitar, how to.
You're a better guitar player now.
Huh?
You're a better guitar player.
Yeah, much better. Yeah. I haven't touched the guitar in about 20 years, and then I bought one and decided to play. But getting back to Peter, let's get into this other stuff.
Well, I was going to ask you about the culture shocks there and some other things about it. Again, as an expat who had lived in China, and I met a lot of British people at pubs and stuff. We would have reverse Chinatowns, foreign towns in there. And we would all meet up. The guys who were teaching English. That's all we could do over there. They would let us teach English. And I'm curious to know what kind of culture shocks and stuff that you had when you moved to the UK.
Well, in '98, it's different now. A lot's changed. But in '98, the biggest culture shock for me was going from a big city to a small town. I live in a small little town outside of Leeds. And the house that I was living in, to give you an example, the house that we had, there was a bit kind of a farm behind us, and with lots of cows that would moo in the middle of the night, or cows would jump over the fence and they'd be right at our back door. So that was interesting, different. You don't find that in the city. The other thing was everything shut here at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
That was a really, it wasn't 24/7 here. All the pubs and bars, whatever, shut by 11. You couldn't drink, in bars and pubs after a certain time. It's all changed now. All supermarkets were shut early. Sundays, if you needed a pharmacy on a Sunday, you had to look in the newspaper to find a pharmacy that was open that particular day, because they just weren't open. They would relegate or delegate one pharmacy in your area to be open, but you had to find out in the newspaper which one it was if you needed it. So it was those kind of things that I found difficult. And the other culture shock was food. The food in this country was not great. You know, they didn't have a very
Bland,
palate.
devoid of spice.
You know, Sunday dinners, fish and chips, you know, sandwiches with not much meat in them, you know, that kind of thing. You know, but again, you just adjust to all these things. You know, after about a year, I was adjusted to everything, and I actually was starting to really enjoy it.
Yeah,
and got very comfortable with it all. And now I love that this lifestyle here: quiet, laid back, not too busy. Now you can there's supermarkets that are open 24 hours here. Pubs can be open much later if they choose to be. I don't really go to them because I don't drink anymore. The food, you know, now we have sushi here, which was never before. There's loads of Mexican restaurants and Thai restaurants, and you know, all kinds of very good American. And you know, they're starting to do a lot of fusion things. There's a lot of great places to eat in this country now. So you know, they've caught up with the times a bit, and all of it now just seems quite normal to me. It doesn't seem any different than any other, you know, way of life that I had in the States.
Now, have you actually hopped around Europe and gone to other places, or have you done
I've gone to Spain a couple of times with my kids just for holiday or family. The only other time I go is if I'm filming somewhere. Okay. So, you know, I filmed in Prague. I went to Tenerife. You know, I was in Ireland. You know, it just depends. You know, I've been to Hungary. You know, different places like that to film commercials and things. So I've had a sense. I haven't really gone on holidays other than Spain. Yeah.
And again, those were paid for.
Yeah.
You didn't have to come out of pocket.
Especially Tenerife. I was in Tenerife for 9 days and we filmed a day and a half. That was a wonderful holiday. So that was pretty good.
What do you miss most about America?
Well, my daughter, to start with.
Oh.
I have a daughter who lives in Nashville from my first marriage.
Oh.
Who's 38. She came to visit for Christmas this year, so it was good to see her, but I hadn't seen her in 3 years. So that's always difficult. So that's what I miss more than anything else. Mm-hmm. And certain friends that I have in New York. I love New York, so I try to go to New York when I get the chance. Other than that, I miss baseball. I do. I love baseball. So I haven't been to a live game since I moved here. So it's one of the things I want to do. I'm going to Texas in May to do a horror convention down in Dallas.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. I saw that you're a picture of you. You were going to do a comic book horror convention.
Yeah, that's right. It's for Killer Klowns. It's a 35-year anniversary. So I think they're doing a Q&A, and then I've never done this before. I'm going to go apparently and sit at a chair and take pictures, sign autographs, that kind of thing.
Right.
Which I've never done before. I don't know why anybody would want my autograph, but there you go.
Well, and we talked to a guy named Zandor Vorkov, who played Dracula in Dracula versus Frankenstein back in 1971. Right. And he had stayed off the radar for a long time. He had his own theater group and everything. Yeah. And he said the exact same thing that you did. I can't imagine that anybody would be interested in me, you know, this long after that movie had been made. Yeah. But he was just overwhelmed with like the fans gushing and wanting autographs and pictures and just that love, and he was just amazed by it. So I think it's going to be a wonderful experience for you. I think you're going to really enjoy it.
I think I will too, actually. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll also see, you know, quite a few cast members and the Kyoto brothers who I haven't seen in a very, very long time. So it'll be really nice to kind of get together with all of them again and, you know, do a little reminiscing and stuff. It's unfortunate because they had, you know, on the 30th anniversary, they were doing a screening at the Motoban Theater back in 2018, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And it was with, I think, an 80-piece live orchestra. And John Massari, who wrote the original score, was there conducting. and the Dickies were there doing the theme song, all to the movie as it was playing.
Oh, wow.
And Pete went to that. That was the last live thing he did.
Oh, man.
That was the last thing. And, he almost didn't go. I was in Italy at the time doing a play, so I couldn't go. I wanted to, but I couldn't. So he went to kind of represent us. Pete had gotten into, he kind of, things went downhill for him. He was struggling a lot with depression.
Mm-hmm.
He was living like a hermit.
Yeah.
He rarely went out. He rarely, associated or got together with people. Anytime, even his best friends, he sort of started alienating them because I think he was, for what he was preparing to do. And I think he was having, there was some other issues family-wise that he was dealing with after his father passed away. And I think just a combination of a lot of things, maybe even the fact that, when I think about this sometimes, the fact that maybe because I left, and he didn't have that friend there, part of that, I think there was a combination of a lot of things. So Pete made a choice back in 2020 to take his own life. Yeah. And I knew he was depressed for a long time, and I tried my best to try to get him help. But he would always say, yeah, I'm going to go see somebody. I'm going to, do whatever I can to, but, it was all just words because he already had decided what he was going to do. And I think he had decided years and years ago. He was just waiting for the right time in his mind to do it. And so he made that choice, and it was heartbreaking. And he left a lot of friends that loved him very much behind. I'm sure there's a few that are probably listening today. And it's a shame because he was an incredibly talented man, and he was very funny, and he was my best friend, and he was like a brother to me. And the only thing I can say at this point, is to people out there, if they're listening, if you're struggling, talk to somebody. Yeah, just talk to somebody. Pick up a phone, have a conversation, tell people what you're feeling. Try to communicate, and hopefully that will help. Yeah, I think that's important to try to avoid the heartache and pain that people go through when things like this happen. So.
Yeah, it's really heart-wrenching when somebody, like you said, who's that talented and that funny, and you would never guess that they would suffer from depression. Robin Williams, Rich Jenny. I mean, there were several comedians who were at the top of the world. Some maybe not, but again, you just never would have guessed that would be where they ended up. And it's something that you have to get help for it. I mean, my daughter just went through this a year and a half ago. We got her the help she needed, and got the medication she needed, and she's doing much better now. So I'm just so happy that we got the help for her, when we did. And it doesn't take a lot of effort.
No, it doesn't. But sometimes you have to be right there. You have to be hands-on. You have to. Yeah. And I think,
like you say, when he walls himself up like that and blocks everybody out, it's not easy to get in there. And
yeah, I also think, I try to analyze it quite a bit, and try to figure things out of, what could have kept him from doing something like that. But when someone makes a decision, Pete was very calculating. He was very, everything had to be almost perfect. He was a perfectionist, and he was very good about planning anything that we did, even as a team. Every I had to be dotted, T had to be crossed, and it all had to be planned perfectly. Even when we wrote emails, a 3-line email would take us 3 days to write because he wanted every word exactly perfect. Me, I'd write it in 2 minutes and send it off, and it is what it is. But that's the way he was. Yeah. So he had to, this was a planned thing for him, and he made sure that he took every step to do it the way he wanted to do it. And I think me being over here made it a lot easier for him to do. I really do.
And psychologists, when they talk to you and you're depressed, that's what they ask you. Do you have a plan?
Yeah.
And are you going to go through with that plan?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're going to go through with that plan? I mean, that's
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
first things that they ask you to assess, and to get you again on the right medication to try to help level you out, and get you to where you're not thinking those thoughts as much.
Right.
988 is the suicide hotline number. Diane Marie posted that, and she's right. You should definitely call that if you're feeling like you've got that plan.
Yeah, please.
So, and somebody else said it must be very difficult for you to relay this to us, this message, and we appreciate you going that extra step to help people. Definitely.
Well, I think it's important that we keep the communication open nowadays, especially with the pandemic and everything else that people are going through and all the stuff that's happening in this crazy world of ours. We keep the stuff open, and maybe a few lives will be saved, and a lot of hearts won't be broken. That's kind of how I look at it, and because I know what I went through and how I dealt with it. But yeah, it's sad, but you learn a lot from something like that.
Yeah.
But I have my memories, a lot of shared memories and things, and I sometimes will look back at things we did together and think how lucky we were.
Lying with Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Having Jonathan Winters come to your room and do a show for you privately.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, have those moments. There were others that I haven't even talked about, but we were excuse me, it's bedtime. We were did you hear that? My phone just told me it's midnight. We did so many wonderful things together, and we were fortunate to meet so many influential people, and I think, like I said before, I think Mitzi was that one person that made everything happen for us.
Really changed everything for you.
Yeah, and I
a lot of comics have said that same thing.
Yeah,
he really helped out a lot of the famous comics of the time.
Oh yeah. Well, there was in your little introduction there before I came on, I saw you interviewed Eddie Brill.
Yeah.
And we worked with Eddie in Vegas.
Yeah.
At least once, maybe twice, I don't know. But he's had quite a career himself, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Because I remember when we worked with him in Vegas, I think it was his first time in Vegas. And he's a very funny guy, and yeah, he again, Mitzi takes people under her wing and just develops them and helps them, and there's a lot of great stories about her, and people make jokes about the way she talked and everything. And I could have done that today, but I wasn't going to start imitating her voice like everybody else does. But she was. I mean, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in the UK probably. I wouldn't have met my wife and had the two kids that I had with her, and be living here because of two words that she said to us, and the way that she took us under her wing and really helped.
Talk.
Yeah, don't talk. I mean, and that's actually the name of a screenplay I'm writing about our life together.
Oh wow!
Yeah, yeah.
And the book, the book that's going to come out.
I probably should write the book first. I almost think that would be easier.
Yeah, I would think write the book first and then make the screenplay. Yeah. Well, you have the screenplay ready when the book comes out.
Well, I've already
to pitch to people.
Written like 2 drafts of it now, so
there you go. Renee, are you there?
That's this thing for me. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, Michael, I'm going to send this clip to Eddie Brill. He's a friend, so if you have a message for Eddie Brill, you can say it here, and I'll send it to him right after this.
She's very good friends with Eddie Brill.
On Facebook occasionally, and I do follow his career, and I'm just it was always it was kind of an honor to be at the Comedy Store in Vegas with him. He's wonderfully talented, and I know he had this great career where he did a lot with the Letterman show, and
right.
he's a funny guy, and I always liked him. He was always very friendly. And if he ever comes to the UK, look me up.
There it is. There it is.
Awesome.
Okay, well, we're going to have to. You have a lot of great stories, so we're going to have to bring you back on sometime soon.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Thank you
so much. You want to go through the photos real quick, guys, because we do have.
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and show the. You found the photos. Great.
Yep, they're here.
Memory lane.
Can you see them?
No. I see Hollywood.
Yeah,
nobody can see them.
No.
Nope.
I wondered. Okay, well, I see them on my end. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, guys. I see them on my end, but it's just one of those things with live television. I'm going to let the audience see them in case the audience can see them, just in case. Otherwise, maybe we can stitch them on the end. These are some great photos, by the way. There's you in a ball pit. I see you.
Yeah, that's from Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
That's very cool. All right. Sorry about that, guys, but I got to see.
I hope you have a wonderful time at that convention in Texas.
I will do it. It will be quite an experience. I'm really looking forward to it. So it should be cool.
That'll be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're not far. You should just come over. Where are you? You're still in Florida.
I'm in Florida. Yeah.
It's not that far. How far is Dallas from where you are? What, a half a day's drive?
I've actually been through Dealey Plaza a couple of times.
I didn't think of that. I might go through there. I haven't been there.
It's creepy. I mean, you just got this kind of, the hair on the back of your neck just kind of stands up when you're there,
I bet. That moment, those are the moments in history where in your life.
It looks pretty much the same. The book depository is still there, and there's the grassy knoll. And
you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. If I have time, I'm definitely going to go.
Yeah, you should swing by there for sure. A lot of good comics in Texas too.
What's that?
A lot of good comics in Texas.
I'm sure there are. Yeah.
But send me the dates. We'll take it under advisement. There's a museum there. I want to see some art.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll be there May 20. I think it's 27th, 28th, and 29th.
Oh, that's wow. Okay, that's soon.
Yeah, it's not too far away. It's the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at that time. So it's either the 27th, 28th, 29th, or the 28th, 29th, and 30th. I can't remember.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So everybody come out to the convention and meet Rich Terenzi.
That's so tempting.
The same.
That is so tempting.
And I did 35 years ago. I'm actually, I still look 30 years old. I was 30 years old when I did that. I was playing at 18.
Wow.
Yeah, we were both. Pete was a little younger than me. He was 3 years younger, but I was 30. We had to double shave. To look as baby face as possible. Yeah, we didn't really get into all the filming and talking about that either, but that was an experience in itself doing Killer Klowns.
I've got half a mind to do another General Howitzer on Killer Klowns just to have you come on and talk about the production.
I'll be happy to. Absolutely.
That'll be a first. We would do a training film a second time to get more.
Why not? Why not? They're coming out with the video.
Oh, here we go.
They're coming out with a video game.
That's what I saw on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I actually tagged that on all the advertisements I did for this show.
Oh, did you? Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know when it's coming out. I thought it was going to be out by now, but it's not out yet. I'm supposed to be they have like some scenes where the ice cream truck just drives through. So I think they're going to use my image in that, which I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, I hope they pay you for it.
They said they would.
Maybe.
Yeah, they said they would. But you know what? You just have to wait and see. They may not use my image. I haven't heard anything lately. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Michael, thank you again for coming on the show and just telling us all about all the wonderful things that have happened to you over the years. And,
well, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it, and I've left a lot out. So
yeah, we'll bring you on for a second time for sure.
Always happy.
Eddie Burrell's been on twice.
Okay, cool. I'm sure he was a lot funnier than I was.
No, man, you're great. He was great. You've been great.
I'm not a joke teller. I just do physical things. Physical. Anyway,
you get to bed, young man.
That was weird. I think I need sleep now. All right, take care. Thanks a lot.
All right, Renee, let's take us out. Thank you for watching, everybody.
Bye, everybody. And I sent that to Eddie Brill. He's watching it now. Bye, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you. See you.
Awesome.
Nice